Good morning and welcome back to the Brick by Brick podcast with Ronald Pauleus, where we look at the principles woven throughout this universe that anyone, even you, can take advantage of to build a life worth living brick by brick. I got a cool guest here, Cooper Galvin. He's based out of a very special place to me. I'm gonna let him speak on that. Cooper, where are you from? And talk about yourself.
I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm down here. Lived here for pretty much my whole life, and I just less than actually about a year ago, probably this month, graduated from college. I was in college up in
Oh,
Vermont, but I'm glad to
nice.
be back down in the warmth. I was in
Yeah,
way up north in the snow and cold, but back down here doing real estate now, so it's good to be
nice.
back.
What'd you do in what'd you study in college?
So my degree was construction management and engineering science. I went
Okay.
to uh, I went to Norwich University, which is a unless you play hockey or are in the military, most people don't know about it. Little military college in the middle of Vermont. But
Nice, nice. So thank you. So construction management. So talk to us about your backstory. That my listeners here, they're they're in their W-2, they're working, they have a desire to get out, or they're looking for the possibility on what to do. And I'm doing a ring I'm doing a string of interviews because everyone has a different backstory, but we've all ended up in real estate in some way. And
mhm.
I want you to just highlight, Cooper, what was your backstory and what what got you into this?
Okay, so I graduated high school right around the same time as the whole COVID fiasco was going on. So
Oh,
it my
yeah.
intention was to play sports my entire middle school, high school career. I wanted to play sports in college. And when
Okay.
COVID happened, it screwed up recruiting, and I just kind of
Mm,
threw that dream out the window. I was like, I don't think I'm going to play sports. So I was going to be an electrician. I was like a couple weeks away from going to trade school, and I got a call from a recruiter at Norwich University, the one of the football coaches, asking if I wanted to play football. So I figured I have my whole life to do everything else. I only have the next couple of
mm.
years to take advantage of this opportunity and play football. So I ended up deciding to go up there.
So
But
you
it's a
really like
private school.
football?
Yeah. I do really like
Okay.
football. Um,
Okay.
it is a private school though, so it's a little pricier than I
Mm,
could afford at the time. So I was like, man, how can I afford to pay for this? And the coach who recruited me at the time, his son was in the Army National Guard and attended school at that same school. So he got me in contact with the recruiter, and I was shipping off to basic training a couple months later. Um, so
so you
all
joined the
throughout
National
college,
Guard.
yes, yeah. So all
Ah,
throughout college, I was in the National Guard. They paid for a
wow.
large chunk of my schooling, and then being in the National Guard and being able to experience basically what I would consider something that's a more strenuous than a W-2, but still like having be bossed around, made to do push-ups and whatnot. I was like, man, I do not want to do this my whole life. How can I get out of it? And right around my junior and senior year of college, I started reading all these great books, like 48 Laws of Power, Think and Grow Rich. I've got
Mm,
one right here that I'm reading right now. I'm reading Miracle Morning. Um,
yeah, yeah.
I've, so I've got a long list of like the Art of War, Sun Tzu, and I read all these books. Oh, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor
I
Dad.
was
That's
gonna
another good one.
ask.
Yeah, gotta shout him out. So I read all these good books, and my dad had been in real estate when I was a kid, but kind of got out of it after the 2007 2008
Mm, mhm.
collapse. So he had a little bit of a background in real estate, and I was kind of talking with him about like, hey, how can I don't want to have a W-2. I want to be able to transition into financial freedom. I don't want to be stuck in the rat race for the rest of my life. And we discussed it, and it was right about that time that he ran across a Pace Morby video on YouTube,
Ah.
and he was looking into purchasing properties subject to, and
Oh,
obviously you find Pace Morby based off that search.
yeah.
So um, my last couple of months of college, I stopped studying as much. Not that I did a lot, anyways, but I stopped studying school as much and started watching more Pace Morby videos and kept,
Yeah,
reading books and trying to get into real estate a little bit more. And my dad joined Sub 2, and then immediately following,
nice.
after like my military duties were done for the summer, I started doing real estate pretty much full time, uh, trying
Okay.
to trying to find properties, networking myself and doing what I thought was work, but really I had no idea what I was doing. I was like surfing Zillow, and um,
Yeah,
looking back, I was like, "You were wasting your time."
for sure.
But
So
repetition
when
is the mother of study. So
yes, exactly, right. When did you so help us put the puzzle piece for us on the construction degree? Did you do two
mm.
years in general studies and then you pivoted to construction? Was that the first thing you did?
so it was a 4 year degree. Construction management's a full 4 years, and I got a minor in engineering science. That happened because I started in general engineering was my original degree. And then
Uh,
I think it was halfway through my sophomore year, I went in and was talking to my advisor, and I'm like, man, next summer, or not next summer, next spring, I got to take um, like fluid dynamics and
I
statics,
don't know.
and like physics 2 and all these classes. And I was like, I don't
Oh,
know about that. And she's like, well, construction management is an engineering school degree. It's a Bachelor of Science through the School of Engineering, and you're already done with your math if you turn to construction management. With the classes you've already taken, you can get an engineering science minor, um, and like one or two other things. And I was like, that seems like a no-brainer. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'll take. And my dad was already in. He's been in construction and renovations and project
Okay.
management for my whole life.
Okay.
Uh, so
Okay.
I was like, I didn't really have an idea that I wanted to do real estate at the time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it ended up fitting out really well because fix and flips and project management and property management, it connects.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Okay. Okay. So you pivoted sophomore year, got into
mhm.
something that didn't demand all the physics and all that, which I totally understand. I
Yeah,
have a master's in divinity, and when I found out that I needed to take Hebrew and more Greek, I dropped it and went general. So I totally
yeah,
understand.
yeah. Greek
I
is one of
still
the
got
harder languages to learn.
yeah. So Hebrew's like backwards. Anyway, but so you made that pivot and sounded like you started actually doing real estate while you were in college, at least networking,
More
connecting,
learning. Yeah.
learning. Okay.
Hmm.
Are you still technically serving in the National Guard or like what's your okay, what's that looking like right now?
Yeah. So, needless to say, I haven't
By the
actually
way.
served. What was that?
I said thank you for your service, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you for your support. Appreciate it. Yeah, so based off, if anybody knows anything about the military, based off of my facial hair and my hair, it's needless to say I haven't been in uniform in a little bit, probably
Okay.
too long. There's been some hang-ups between transferring from my old unit to my new unit after graduating college. So I'm
Oh,
still
oh,
still working out those kinks. But I
gotcha.
am still in, and I will be in until 2027, like the halfway through 2027. So it's looking like I'm gonna probably get out based off of like how things are going in real estate and the world climate and everything. I think I'm going to not re up after my next contract's up or after this contract is up, but I
Got
will be in still under contract until 2027.
gotcha. So you're in active service right now until 27.
So I'm National Guard. So like for in military lingo, active duty would be basically like a full time job. And right
Oh,
now,
okay.
one weekend a month I go, or what should be one weekend a month I go in and
Gotcha.
train, and then a couple weeks every summer. So like for example, last summer I was in Greece for three
Greece.
weeks.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, which is why I know that Greek is such a difficult language to learn because when I heard, hey, we're going to Greece, download Duolingo, and it's
Yeah.
like, couldn't even get past like stage one, you know?
Nice.
um, but
Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So those were my like couple weeks in the summer where I got to train. I got a nice little, what seems like a Mediterranean vacation, but it was actually,
Yeah.
you know, kind of rough. Uh, but yeah.
Okay. So your sophomore year, you've pivoted. Your dad's getting into real estate, joined Sub 2, and is also what was actually actively looking to buy a house, Sub 2, which makes sense because during COVID, I mean, interest rates were 2%, right?
Right.
I've seen some that were 1. So he was, I mean, the guy is intelligent to be looking at how can I buy some at that rate.
Apple
So
doesn't fall far from the tree.
yeah, right. So now you're into it. You're looking into it. Talk to us about what made you what made you say you want to get into real estate and not just like follow your construction degree and build a construction business or be a
Hmm.
manager at one.
So whether you listen to people like Robert Kiyosaki or people like Dave Ramsey, who are like complete opposites, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
They both say if you want whatever their version of financial freedom is, if you want financial freedom, the first thing you should do is invest in real estate, right? Because it's not like the Wolf of Wall Street, Fugazi. It could just disappear at some point. It's like a chunk of land that's not going to go anywhere.
You could touch
Tomorrow
it.
we could wake up tomorrow and Nasdaq could be like all screwed,
Yep,
but your property's still going to be there. And it was something that I could understand. You know,
got
I feel like it's not that difficult to grasp, like buying and selling and renting properties, right? So I was like,
you.
let me look into this, and um, yeah, obviously there's a bunch of other stuff that kind of culminated in me making the decision that real estate was the move. But that's the main thing is like everybody that I heard, regardless of what their like belief on the progress to get to that point of
Mm,
financial
I
freedom,
see.
it was all like in real estate,
I
at
see.
least as a base level. So
Okay, so that puzzle piece clicked for you based on outside voices. What about inside voices? And by inside, I mean, what about your dad? He was in real estate when you were younger. What was his involvement in real estate? Was he a realtor, fixing, flipping?
I think
When
he
you
had
were
his license for a little bit, but I don't think he really
okay.
used it. Um, he invested in a couple condos in Chicago. I was born in Chicago, but we moved here before I turned here as in Orlando. We moved to Orlando before I turned 2, so I
Oh, okay.
basically, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I
You
basically
grew up.
have only lived in Florida,
Yeah.
my conscious life. So he invested in a couple condos in Chicago, and then invested in condos because he worked for a condominium complex. Can't remember the name of it, but he invested in a bunch of condos in Florida too when we moved here. Needless to say, that was 2005, 2006, 2007 hits, and I think we had 20 something, or he had 20 something, lost all of them.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and so, like, he had experience in real estate, but that was very, he was, he was what I would consider at the time young, you know what I mean? Had young kids. It lined up with some medical issues in the family that were just really
mm,
poor timing. So he learned a lot from that. You know, obviously, from you learn from your mistakes.
mm.
Not that it was a mistake; you couldn't really have seen that coming. Nobody did, but uh, that was his involvement in real estate, and all he had was condos. So obviously, if he would have been a little bit more diverse, it may have not impacted him as heavily. There's any number of like what he could have, should have, would have done, but he had he had involvement in real estate and just decided not to get back into it after immediately following the crash because we didn't have the money to. And then
Yeah.
as I started to get to a point where it's like, hey, I moved out of the house. My younger sister's about to go to college. She does
Mm.
go to college. My financial burden and my sister's financial burden are lifted off of my dad a little bit. Okay,
I
now I can start looking back into investing.
yeah,
Obviously, he's going to start thinking about retirement. So what can I do to get
yeah.
out of my W-2 and get that financial freedom, or at least get your time back. Instead of
Yeah.
working for a boss, work for yourself.
Okay. Okay. So he I mean 20 doors units or like 20 is a big number.
Yeah, I
And-
could be off a little. I'll give or take five. But something
yeah,
like
yeah. I
that.
mean, still five. It's one is the gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
So you have that history with him, and what's the relationship now? Because you're going all in sub
Mhm.
two. You've
Yeah.
joined Owners Club, which is a higher mastermind that pays more he has. Not It's not cheap to get in, and you like what's your relationship with? Did your dad join sub or Owners Club too? Like what? Tell us about what's happening now.
So initially, my dad and I are under the same Sub 2 subscription. So
Gotcha.
we
Okay.
had when we signed up for Owners Club, we were like, "Oh, it's the Sub 2 subscription signing up." So it's both of us. Um, it's a little bit pricier. It's cheaper than like the full price, but it's a little bit pricier for two people to join than we thought. So we're like, my dad still has a W-2. The
Okay.
biggest thing that you get out of Owners Club is the retreats, or so I've been told. We're
Oh,
going to San Antonio
yeah. I'll be
probably
there
around the
too.
same
I'll see
time
you.
that this episode drops. Um, so what you get out of Owners Club most is the connections you make. And he's
Yeah.
not going to be able to go to all the retreats. He's not going to be able to do everything because he has that W-2 still. And the
Oh.
goal is to be able to retire him this time next year.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
so that's the goal. If everything goes to plan or better than plan, he will be working real estate full time around this
My
time next year. So when we signed up for I guess when I graduated college, my dad and I had the understanding that, hey, in the next X number of years, we didn't really set a date on it, which isn't really what do they call it, a smart goal, or you
yeah.
know, but regardless, we said, hey, in the next couple of years, we're going to get to this point where we can retire you, as in my dad, from your W-2 and work full time. So, and I was like, how can I have the least amount of bills possible and be able to do this full time? So,
Mm.
back out of college, I moved back in with my dad, and I've
Uh,
only been in graduated college a year, so that's still where I'm staying right now. But it has
yeah.
allowed me to get this, massive, what I would consider massive, portfolio under contract in Panama City. Hopefully, we
Oh
can close on this in the next month or so, around the time of this podcast dropping.
yeah. Yeah.
Right now, we have 5 rentals on top of
Nice.
that, so
Nice.
those are already cash flowing, all of them.
There you go.
So, and we're now starting to diversify outside of just real estate or just residential real estate. I have family members who are also in storage facilities in the Midwest,
Nice.
so I'm starting to look at JVing with them a little bit to try and get into the storage business because they're not tenants, so you
Yeah.
don't have to have like they don't have tenant rights, so
Yeah.
you don't pay, you're out of here,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
it's nice, there's a time and a place to have renters and tenants and everything, but also to be able to say like I have 1,000 units of storage facilities that are all cash flowing at 75-80% occupancy or something like that would be super nice too. So that's the goal is to start not transitioning but just diversifying outside of residential and into more storage, which is just like a business.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Yeah.
Cooper, you've moved into parents
Hmm.
that house, and that move was to have less overhead.
Absolutely.
You're able to put in the work and time into real estate full time. For the people listening, what you said retire your dad. What income do you need to replace? It could be just a uh,
Hmm.
an I've lost the word. A round number of like,
Yeah, I
whatever
guess
it is. Like,
circa or whatever you want to call it.
yeah, what do you need to retire him
Hmm.
so he can then now go full throttle with you on this?
I'm gonna read you my instead of giving you like the number that we need, I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you my goal. This is
I love
These are
it.
my affirmations. I'm going to read you like a snippet out of my, I've got affirmations on my
Ah,
notes app
nice.
that
Let's
I
do it.
say, I try and say every day. It's super long, but I'm going to give you just the first bit.
Let's do it.
Inspired by the fear of being average, I will earn at least $1 million and walk across the stage at sub two Squat Up Summit next year. I will
Boom.
earn $100,000 per month by the time I'm 25 through real estate investing and personal brand marketing. So yeah,
Nice.
that little snippet I believe came from the book. I've got it over here next to my bed. Think and Grow Rich, like the
Yep.
word, like the verbiage in that.
Yep.
Um, but so the goal is I made a video with Carly Grunman, shout out Carly,
Yep. I know.
to walk across stage at Squat Up next year in San Diego. Regardless of what it's for, I'm going to be on stage. Um, and then by the time I'm 25, $100,000 per month. And that says in the next year I'll make $1 million. So
How old
that's
are
what's
you
going to happen.
now?
23. So I've got a year and a half to make it happen.
Man. Man. So those goals that drives you, and you said, I think, what my listeners are really thinking of, inspired by the fear of being average.
Hmm.
If you want, if you don't want an average life, you should not do average things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you're on track to do that. Our next episode, we're gonna jump into that here right after we close this one. But we're gonna dig a little bit into that to figure out what are you doing to get there, because I think anyone can make a goal, anyone can have aspirations, but it's the actions that you take after you've made the goal that lets us know, okay, they're actually heading towards it or they're backpedaling. But
Yeah.
before
If
we
nothing changes, if nothing
nothing.
changes, nothing changes, right?
Yep, yep,
You
yep,
got to
yep.
change. You got to change your daily life to build the macro through the micro.
Love it. Let's talk about that in our next episode. But as we
All
end
right.
this one, Cooper, what what would you say to the person who is they're in their W-2, they're working, they might be using their degree, they might not be using their degree, and they're not dreaming of $100,000 a month, but they're dreaming of 10, 15, maybe
Hmm.
even 8. What would you say to them on their journey to not being average?
Alex Hormozy has a quote. I don't know if he's the first person to say it, but I heard it from him. It's something along the lines of do so much volume it would be unreasonable for you to fail, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
if you're working a W 2, odds are you're working 40, maybe for those real tough blue collar guys out there, maybe let's say you're even working 60 hours a week, right? Take your lunch break and bird dog. Take your 10 minutes before bed and read Think and Grow Rich or read Rich Dad Poor Dad really quick before you go to bed. You'll be
Yep.
finished with it in 3 months or something like that. You know, and maybe less if you read it quick. So just you've got extra hours in the day that you spend doing. I call it thumb cardio, scrolling on your phone.
Mhm. Love
You
that.
know, you spend doing something that's not productive to your goal. So take those. You know, start a little bit at a time. Do 5 minutes here. Do 10 minutes there. Work up to 20, 30. Build your resilience to it, and then eventually get to the point where you're doing so much volume alongside of your W-2 that it would be unreasonable for you not to achieve what your goal is, being to quit your W-2 or keep your W-2 and make $10,000 a month on top of it or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Guys, you heard it here. Do so much volume that it is unreasonable you don't succeed. I mean, eh, along that quote, Alex says, volume beats luck every time. And
Yes.
actually,
This
that's
man
what I
knows ball.
and that's what I put on my dry my board, dry eraser board, when I was getting into this in 2024, 25. I said, okay, if I'm gonna do a bunch of deals, which I was knocking pre-foreclosures, instead of knocking 10 a week or 30 a week like some people do. I'm gonna knock 100. I'm gonna 3x that so I can get towards my goal, or whatever the number is. So, I mean, volume works. Volume
Yeah.
works. Cooper,
Yep.
thanks for being with us. How can people reach out to you? What's your social media handles?
My Instagram is Gooper, which not a C, it's a G. Gooper underscore C. And I believe I'm Gooper underscore C on most social medias, to include like Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. But you can also just search Cooper Galvin, and should be pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Those of you listening, what can you start doing this week, volume wise, that will propel you towards your goals? Or if you don't have goals or you don't know how to really, what goal to set, what can you start doing just so you can not be average? Let's figure that out. We'll see you on the next episode.